If there's one thing I know how to do, it's how to take one niche subject and make it everybody else's problem. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris and I know how to read. No free promo. Allegedly. And today we're going to be talking about Hamilton. In my previous video where I let a wheel decide how many pages I read in a day, one of the books I read in that video was this right here, Hamilton the Revolution by Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jeremy McCarter. Now, for those of y'all that don't know, Hamilton is a musical that premiered off-Broadway, I think in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, and then very quickly became one of the biggest musicals of this generation. It is a modern hip-hop based take on musicals as a whole, but also on the life of Treasury Secretary and overall founding father, historical figure, Alexander Hamilton. Now, I, like many others, went through a Hamilton phase in high school. I think the first time I heard of Hamilton was when they won their award. I think it was a Tony for Best Musical in 2016. And they did a performance on TV. And I remember watching that performance with my mom, and it was just the first song of the musical. And after listening to it and watching the performance, I was like, oh, I need to get obsessed with this. And so I did. I loved the soundtrack, and while I knew I was never going to be able to see it in person in New York, I was very content with just listening to the soundtrack on Spotify over and over and over. And then one day, a miracle happened. They released it on Disney Plus. I think I remember messaging my friend on like Twitter or something like that with a tweet from Lin-Manuel Miranda that was like, hey, like we're gonna release the musical, and him and I were so hyped for it. I ended up watching the musical when I was on a plane coming back from Colorado. I mentioned it in last week's video. I was less than sober, but I still very much enjoyed it. But I also, realistically, don't remember a lot of the musical. This book is filled with behind the scenes photos, song annotations, and footnotes, as well as just a general history of what it took to make Hamilton from an original book that Lin-Manuel Miranda read. I forget the original book's author, but I'll put it up on screen right now. I've only heard good things, and they also wrote a book on George Washington as well. So this musical, one of the biggest musicals ever really, came from this like biographical take on Alexander Hamilton. And then this book right here physically goes through anything and everything that it took to get it from the pages to the stage. One of my favorite movies of all time, and especially when I was a kid, one of my favorite movies of all time was Pirates of the Caribbean. And we had the 2-disc special edition that had the movie and all the behind the scenes stuff. And I probably watched the behind the scenes stuff way more than I watched the actual movie. Being able to hear like the actors' takes and the producers and the photography people and the director and like everyone that it takes, everything that it takes to make a final production happen is so cool and fascinating to me that reading this book really brought me back to like me being a little kid on a road trip to Miami and with my portable DVD player watching the behind the scenes of Pirates of the Caribbean. What we have to understand is even back then when Hamilton first came out, but especially now, having these kind of progressive retellings of history in a way that's much more like pleasing to people of all ages, I think is incredibly important. So I was thinking like what better way of kind of finishing this Hamilton kick that I've been on for the past week or so, not just by reading this book, but also by rewatching the musical. But you know how like self-interest by nature, by title, are your own specific interests? What if I also made it my roommate's problem? Introduce yourself to the general public.
Hello, general public. My name is
Roommate.
I am Chris's roommate, and I also know how to read. Allegedly.
I've kind of forced you to listen to the Hamilton soundtrack before.
Yes.
Did you have like any at all other experience with listening to Hamilton or hearing about Hamilton before me? What do you think about Hamilton? Word. And I think Disney will actually snipe me where I stand if any of this makes it on the internet. What do you think of this lighting? One song review. We just listened to Alexander Hamilton, the first song in the musical. I'm a dweeb. What do you think?
I like it so far. I like all the dancing and the subtle storytelling that happens in the background of the songs.
So one of the things they do, I'll try and put some photos up because I don't want Disney to flag this video. So one of the things they tried to do with the background that I learned about in the book was that because a lot of this story takes place like on ships, They tried to make the background look both kind of like a city street, but also have like various
With the rope
ship
and,
vibes and stuff. We're going back.
The remote is crazy.
We're at the intermission. It's the halfway point. We're about an hour 15 in, and we got about an hour 15 to go. What do you think so far?
I like it. Staging is great. One of the things that I mentioned was the way they like seamlessly move between the scenes.
Yeah.
No, not the songs.
Oh, you mean just the scene? Oh, okay.
Like when they were doing Angelica's like rewind thing.
Yeah.
The way that like all of the actors like actually did all of their things backwards and like had like flashbacks and then like returning to the scene to where like in a movie like that's easy, you can just like cut to an old picture and back to present, but like to actually do that live, like they did it really seamlessly. The other thing was I like Lafayette just because he's pretty and I like a French accent too.
Do you think it's a good French accent? I was gonna ask. Yeah. I think he says like.
I think it's funny that he's the only one with an accent.
Yeah, when they're all British. Likes, dislikes, everything in between. What do you think? I think this is better lighting technically, but we're not going to do that. What do you think?
I need a second.
No, you're not getting a second. It might get a little hot because I'm going to turn down the AC. All right. Likes, questions, comments. My biggest worry when I wanted to show you this was that you would... Don't vlog and drive, kids. My biggest worry was that I would overhype it. Because I feel like Hamilton, I watched Hamilton at like... Thanks. I watched Hamilton at like peak hype. And so even at peak hype, I still very much enjoyed it. So I wanted to see like, from someone who knew very little, if at all, about it, I want to see what your thoughts were on it. Hold. Speed bump.
It's the respect for how much like energy and effort goes into like embodying those characters and like the emotion on their faces, and like you can see because they're singing to each other like this far apart at full volume. Like I just wonder what their breath is like. I hope it's good
I hope
for their sake.
The orphanage.
She read all of his letters. And she told his story. I did like too like after she found out that he cheated on her, like she had that moment of power of like I understand that you like telling your story is going to be done through the letters, and so I'm gonna burn them. So that
because she knows that was like what was most important to.
Yeah, and so nobody's gonna know what my reaction was. Like I know how powerful these letters are, and then she like after forgiveness, and then like still holding on to like that is the power is like all of his letters and stuff, and flipping that over and being like I'm gonna use that to tell the story.
Overall, 5 out of 5 experience. And if you want to read it, surprisingly, if you know how to read. Nice to meet you. We're living together, unfortunately. I have the book, which also just has, at the very minimum, has really pretty pictures. So
I might flip through it.
We like a flip.
I probably won't read it.
We like a flip. You don't know how. Dummy.
I'm allegedly.